My husband teaches us how to do nice things. Just sometimes a little humor can get you through.
Hi, I'm Lacey, and I'm proudly hard of hearing. And what's hard about being in the deaf community is that's the only thing people identify you as. And I feel like saying, hey, I'm not just that deaf girl, I also have a great ass. So yeah, I love shocking people. And people are especially shocked when I tell them my life story. I won't get into all of it tonight because I need y'all to buy my memoir one day. So I'm going to tell the story of how I realized I was gay. And my story starts in the Deep South, the epicenter of queer culture. I grew up in a small town in Georgia where there was a church and a Waffle House on every single block. I definitely spent more time in the latter with my scattered cover hash browns and sweet tea. And the hard thing about growing up in the South is you don't see many openly gay people. You just have your one weird lesbian aunt. Well, guess who's going to be this generation's weird lesbian aunt? My aunt was super butch. She rarely came around, and I think our longest conversation was when I asked her where she got her 90s Lance Bass haircut done. So I didn't have a very positive or accurate frame of reference for gay women. I stood out and was othered from the time I was 7, when I was diagnosed with profound hearing loss and given clunky brown hearing aids, paired with my JCPenney Gold Plus clearance outfits and Walmart knockoff kids. I stuck out like a fat deaf girl in a sea of toothpick normies. I was also discovered to be gifted around the same time. So neither my teachers or parents thought I needed to go to the deaf school in Atlanta since I was smart enough for all the advanced classes. This was before we had private computers with internet, so I knew nothing about deaf culture or even that there were a lot of deaf people out there in the world. I just felt very alone in my experience. I learned how to lip read at some point, but I was never exposed to sign language. I was basically just thrown into a rough river with no life jacket and expected to survive without any bystanders lending a helping hand. So in high school, I mostly stuck to myself, and I worked hard to make straight A's in hopes of escaping the confines of the Waffle House. And when I was not studying, I was focused on TV shows and novels depicting more exciting lives in LA or New York. I was also lusting after my celebrity crushes. Baby era Justin Bieber, bleach blonde Jesse McCartney, High School Musical Zac Efron. Yes, in retrospect, they all definitely look like lesbians. And I secured a full ride to the University of Miami, the school furthest away from home that I applied to. Thank you. And this was my chance to start over. So I began to develop my own identity outside of my family and my Southern upbringing. I shed my shy, bookish persona, blossomed as a social butterfly, and started dressing in head-to-toe neon. When I was 20, my dad passed away at just 46. We were very close, and I sought out therapy for the first time to work through my grief. My entire life view changed. I started to realize how truly short life is and how I needed to go after everything I wanted. So I decided to tell my closest friend, Gerardo, that I liked him. My first time ever doing such a thing. So we were walking back to campus from a grocery run, and I nervously put my feelings out there. I asked if he liked me back, and he was like, I don't think so. And I was like, I didn't hear you, gotta run. A few days later, we were having one of our late night parking lot talks, and out of nowhere, he said, I'm gay, I only like men. I was so relieved. It wasn't just me, it was all women. I felt honored that he came out to me, and I told him I supported and loved him no matter what. Fast forward to when I'm 24. I lost my mom, my best friend, exactly 1 month after I got my first job and moved to Washington, D.C. Up until that point, I was constantly worried that she would pass while I was not at home, as she had been very sick for 2 years. Thankfully, I was there in the end. And this is very scary to say out loud, but I felt a strong sense of relief from not having to worry about my parents anymore. While I was grappling with intense grief, I felt this weight was lifted, and I felt like I could finally focus on my true identity and what I wanted out of life. I knew I craved connection and purpose. I also knew I wanted to get into comedy, as making people laugh had always brought me true joy. So I decided to try an improv class as a first step. And I immediately felt at home in the class, and I was drawn to this one girl, M. We started hanging out, and I felt a very strong connection to her. I FaceTimed Gerardo one day. He's still my closest friend. And I tell him all about my blossoming relationship with M. He lights up, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, you're gay too. Are you gonna get a Justin Bieber haircut?" It was like all the lights turned on in my head, and suddenly so many things made sense. Why I was so invested in the Santana-Britney relationship on Glee. How I thought there were objectively way more attractive women than men in the world, which I stand by. And why all my crushes looked like lesbians. So I started identifying as bisexual, and I thought I'd try out hetero speed dating to see if I actually cared to date men. And long story short, I left that event way gayer than I entered. I went to my first Pride that year, and I felt a true sense of belonging for the first time. And I moved to LA 2 years ago for another fresh start, and I really hit the ground running. Every weekend, you could find me at queer yoga, queer hike, queer trauma dumping meetups. I still feel very new to the queer world, and I'm often jealous of people who knew they were gay when they were younger. And I'm always kind of terrified to disclose my lack of dating experience to new people, but I've found the queer community here to be very accepting of that. Unlike the straights who imply something must be deeply wrong with me since I've always been single. And I got into stand-up last year, and it's worked wonders for my confidence in all aspects of my identity. I feel like I'm finally on the right path and living as my authentic self, a proud deaf gay with a great ass. Happy Pride, y'all.